Well, hey guys, it's Viejo here, and we are in the second week, getting ready for the start the third week, I guess, of May here in 2025. Got a windy day out here on the central coast of California, but it's clear and not particularly cold. What have I got in here in the garage? We were looking at 67 and only 55% humidity, so it's a good day. I was out at the range today. I'm having some fun, but anyway. Hey, this is part one of episode 18 of Wadcutter Wednesday. If you're just coming on to this series, what I'm doing is I've got over 30 different cast bullet molds for wadcutters. About half of them are in 38 special, and the other half are kind of divided between 44 and 45 Colt calibers. But I got a bunch of them, and I'm not doing any load development here. All I'm doing is trying to show you these different wadcutter molds, hoping to maybe stimulate a little interest in shooting wadcutters again. And you know that it's not just cast bullets. There's you can still buy commercially made wadcutter bullets, you know, in plated version or cast and swaged. So I'm just taking them out, getting them cast up, showing you the molds that I have, and taking them out and shooting and have a little bit of fun with them. So what I've got for you today is a Saeco number 944. Okay, this is about a 200 grain bullet wadcutter for 44 caliber. I'll be shooting them in 44 special. Here's a picture of the mold with the bullets that I cast up here. And what we'll do is, in this part one, is kind of go through the casting sequence. I'm going to show you the mold all taken apart and stuff so you can see what it looks like. It's a 2-cavity mold. And then we'll get into the casting. If you're brand new to the series, I can't show you the actual casting series on YouTube. If you're watching on Rumble, you'll get to see that. If you want to see the casting parts, you go to my channel over on rumble.com. You just type in my channel name like this right here. Okay. And you'll find me over there, and you can probably type in hashtag Wadcutter Wednesday and get to me over there also. If you are on YouTube, what I'll do is I can show you the mold, okay, before it gets heated and taken to the pot, and then we'll show you the results. Okay, I always do a kind of a data page for all of my molds, and I'll show you the one that I have done for that particular bullet, and we'll show you what we produced for this particular go-round. All right, so with all that said, let's get into it. Here's the Saeco number 944 200 grain wadcutter bullet for 44 caliber. I'll shoot them in 44 special. Very similar to one of the molds that you've already seen me do from Saeco in 38, similar style. And as far as our hardware goes, okay, we've got the sprue plate bolt with a Belleville style spring washer that goes on there. Okay, requires an Allen key to operate. The sprue plate bolt set screw has a buffer, a brass buffer similar to what RCBS does, in between the end of the set screw and where that set screw would otherwise contact the threads of the bolt, which we don't want to have happen. And it takes a little bit smaller Allen key for that. Okay, our handle bolts are slotted, and so we need an appropriately sized slotted screwdriver bit to handle those. Regarding that buffer, if you pick one of these guys up and decide to disassemble it like this to get it cleaned up, be mindful of that buffer. And you should probably take it out, because if you don't take it out voluntarily, it will probably fall out as you're washing the mold off, and you may lose it. You may have to take a small Allen key and push it out into the hole for the sprue plate bolt here at the top. in order to get that thing out. And then what you do is you come in with that same little skinny Allen key and push that guy out from the bottom. Okay, that's the way I handle that. Otherwise, they tend to get lodged. They're difficult to get out. They're easy enough to put back, but you don't want to lose that. That's actually a fairly important piece. So anyway, there's that. So I've got this guy already cleaned as far as getting rid of the factory oils. I'm going to put it back together on some Saeco handles. Other manufacturer handles generally don't work unless you modify them, but I've got Saeco handles available, so I'll use those. And I'm going to heat cycle this about 3 times, which means bringing it up to casting temperature on the hot plate, let it sit there for 20-30 minutes, and then cool back down to ambient temperature, then do that again, and then again at least 3 times. And I do that with the mold closed and kind of help get these guys established. And it's also going to cook all of the remaining factory oils off of there. And that seems to help get the mold ready to cast. We know from experience that used molds that have been what we call seasoned cast better. So, oops, I shook my own camera there. So what we're trying to do is get this mold seasoned without having to cast it first, because you always end up casting a whole bunch of bullets before this guy will start working for you. So that's what we'll do. We'll get it heat cycled a few times and then get ready to go. Okay, let's have a look here. Not perfect. A little bit of a sag right there, but thought I saw maybe, yep, I did. A little bit of an inclusion right there. Now, I just added some rain scrap to the pot because it was getting low, and even though I fluxed it, sometimes a little bit of that stuff escapes. So I think I'll toss that one. There's no point in keeping it. Too easy to make a new one. This one, on the other hand, looks near perfect. Okay, let's keep going. The Saeco number 944. Okay, with the product from today, a bunch of good looking bullets, interesting design. Saeco has a 357 style bullet, very similar in design. This one's for 44 cal. All right, here comes the Saeco number 944 200 grain wad cutter for 44 caliber in Eastwood lime green. Here's the lowdown on the Saeco number 944. A wad cutter style bullet for 44 caliber. Came in at 201 grains today. It's advertised as a 200 grain bullet. Both cavities right at .430. Overall length up to the top of that button. If you, where are we? There we go. If you look at that button, it's got a little point on it, and so from the very base up to the top of that point, 0.575. And then if we look at what we've got for crimping, it's not really a crimp groove. You can see that the top band there, okay, right here, it is beveled, sort of like the crimp groove there, but not really a groove there. It just bevels down to a narrower diameter there, but that's where we're going to crimp to. And so that's where I measured. I measured to the top of that bevel, and we'll call that a crimp groove. Okay, not really a groove though. Kind of looks like it, you know, from a distance. It looks, oh, there's a crimp groove, but not really. You get in here close and you can see. All right. So that measurement was 0.465. Okay, if you were watching on Rumble, you saw that mold ran pretty well. If you didn't get to see that, it was a good running mold. It made some really nice bullets. There were no real issues at all with that one, and that's fairly typical of a Saeco mold. They're pricey. They're more expensive than, you know, the Lee or the RCBS or the Lyman molds. And really more expensive than an MP mold, even by the time you have an MP mold shipped to you. Those Saecos are or expensive, but they're a good mold. And so, again, if you followed me for a while, you know that I buy a lot of molds used and almost prefer to do that because they don't require any break-in. You sometimes have a little bit of, what ifs, and itchiness on the way to getting those things. You never know for sure till you have it in your hands. You take a look and see what kind of shape they're in. But that's a whole nother story, right? Anyway, the mold ran great. It actually shot pretty well, even considering the shooter. And we'll get into that next week. We'll get them loaded up and take them to the range and shoot them. So tune back in next Wednesday for part 2 of this, and you can see how we did at the range. And again, that's mostly just for fun. We're not trying to prove which one of these is the more accurate or anything like that. We're just going to have fun with this stuff. Okay, I think that's going to do it for this one. I hope you enjoyed that and got something out of it. But from the Viejo bench for now, that's all she wrote.